President Donald Trump criticized for his apparent defense of two of his former aides who resigned this week amid domestic abuse allegations. President Trump expressed support for former senior aide Rob Porter, despite two of Porter's ex-wives publicly describing his alleged abuse in detail. The next day, the president's speechwriter, David Sorensen, also resigned when new allegations came to light. On Saturday, President Trump tweeted this, quote, "People's lives are being shattered and destroyed by mere allegations. Some are true, some are false, some are old, some are new. There is no recovery for someone falsely accused. Life and career are gone," he went on. "Is there no such thing any longer as due process?" Chuck Todd is NBC's political director and moderator of Meet the Press. Chuck, good morning. Good to see you as always. So walk us through this week with these two White House aides who were forced to resign over those allegations. Right. There were reports in the paper that Chief of Staff John Kelly knew about the abuse, the alleged abuse in the fall, that the White House counsel knew far before that. Donald Trump saying he just learned recently and made that decision, but sort of came out and said, look, Porter says he's innocent. I have to remind you, he says he's innocent. Is there any fallout for this right now? Is there any chance John Kelly, for example, leaves the White House?
Well, let me start with the John Kelly part of your question, Willie. I think he is very vulnerable here. But he was, the president was getting impatient with John Kelly and starting to call around and get antsy about him before this week. So I think this week could be one of the final straws for John Kelly. And it could simply mean that the president is just tired of John Kelly. If you look at his pattern going back to the campaign, 3 campaign managers, he's on his second chief of staff. Basically, the average tenure of being sort of the president's right hand is about 6 to 9 months, and John Kelly's on month 7. But the fact of the matter is, this does look like as if John Kelly was afraid of losing somebody he thought was a competent employee, and it's so difficult to get competent people to agree to work in that West Wing that they overlooked a lot of red flags about Rob Porter.
There's no question about it. Chuck, I have to say, being here in South Korea, the relationship with North Korea and the United States' role in it sort of hangs over everything. You had the sister of Kim Jong-un appearing at these games, making an offer of a meeting to the president of South Korea. You have the North Koreans playing with South Koreans on the women's hockey team, marching under a unified flag into the opening ceremonies. There's a lot of skepticism about what North Korea is up to here in South Korea. What is the White House? What is President Trump thinking as he watches this unfold?
Well, I think Vice President Pence has been his symbolic grimaces, I think, are there to show you what the president thinks. His decision not to stand as the Korean team came in. So I think you do see ways that I think Vice President Pence is trying to express their displeasure, I think, with all this and not wanting to look like they're at all seeming complimentary to the North Koreans. But I think one thing Americans need to remember, I think South Koreans have a different mindset about wanting unification someday. They're I think they always want to be hopeful, but I think all of us are a little more realistic here in realizing this is probably nothing but a PR stunt by the North Koreans because the Olympics are right in their backyard and the world is watching.
Yeah, and South Koreans saying we've seen this movie before. They're viewing it as propaganda. Chuck, thanks very much. We'll look for much more this morning on Meet the Press, as we always do. Chuck will be joined by White House Director of Legislative Affairs Mark Short and Republican Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, an outspoken critic of President Trump.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.